just wanted to show you an example of why you might not tear something down, although you may want to improve on something. We have an example here of, you can see this construction site, of a house that was built in the 80s, and it was built to capacity at the time. Well, the zoning laws have changed since then, and so it's actually a little bit bigger and a little bit higher than you would be able to build today if you tore it down. So in this example, they're basically taking it apart so they can put it back together again and keep some of those features that are what are called legal non-conforming. And they did it next door. You can see right next door, a shiny new white place. They just did the same thing. There were some features of that home that were really valuable and worth keeping, as opposed to tearing it down and having to come into conformity with the setbacks or the height limits. Every property is different, but there are always reasons, or can be reasons, why you might not want to tear it all the way down and keep the footprint of the house and the bone structure of the house, and then, you know, dismantle it and put it back together, so to speak, and be able to keep those bonus features that add value to your property. And so here's an example of somebody in the process of doing that, and right next door, somebody that finished that process in the last couple years. Some of the legal non-conforming things, one of the more prominent is a height limit, right? So some of these homes were built beyond the current height limit. You can't tear it down and build back up to the old height limit. If you tear it down, if you demolish the entire place, you have to come into conformity. But if you are able to keep the footprint and keep the bulk of the structure, even if you're replacing all the guts of it, especially in Hermosa, you can keep that nonconformity. Some cities have very specific calculations and take into consideration the fact that you're tearing off the stucco and putting new stucco. That counts towards the equation of how much remodeling you're doing. Other cities aren't that detailed or choose not to be that critical on how much work you're doing. It's more based on not touching the structure and not touching the footprint, and it varies city to city. Height is a big issue or a bonus. Setbacks, your side setbacks, how far you can build out to the property line. There's homes on the Strand that are literally built on the property line, which is not allowed. The rule today is 10% of the width is how much space you need on each side. So these lots are typically 30 feet wide. You need to have a 3-foot wide setback on one side and a 3-foot wide setback on the other. They're creating a 26-foot wide house. Then you have framing and walls. The inside of your house is 24 feet wide. If you didn't have any setbacks, you could have like a 29-foot wide house. And that 5 feet, believe it or not, makes a huge difference. Every inch counts down here by the beach. So those are two of the primary things that people would want to keep as far as nonconformities, legal nonconformities. There's definitely some other reasons that are legal nonconforming, but the two primary ones by far are if you're over the current height limit or beyond the current setbacks and you're able to remodel and keep those features because it benefits the property or benefits your value. Part of the legal nonconforming conversation is these ADU laws, these multi-unit laws that have definitely changed the landscape as far as redevelopment, if that's what you're pursuing. And the general rule, it's a blanket rule as far as how it pertains down here by the beach when you have existing structures, is you're not allowed to downsize the number of units on the property that are existing. So what that means is if you have a single family home, that's one unit on the property, you can tear it down and you could build up whatever the zoning allows. One house, 2 townhomes, whatever the zoning allows. I'm being very general. But if the current zoning only allows a single family or only allows 2 units, and let's say you have a triplex on the property, an old beach triplex, you cannot tear that down and go from 3 existing units down to 1 unit. Well, the state passed a law that went into effect at the beginning of the year and basically said, I don't care what your city's zoning says, you cannot eliminate units in the state of California. We need more houses, we need more housing, we need more units, and so you're not allowed to downsize the number of units, and that has put a restriction on properties like that. And then it obviously affects the value. So it's a big arm wrestle right now on what's allowed, how you can work with the rules. Some properties are just totally stuck in their current structure. Doesn't mean you can't remodel them, but you can definitely not combine units, and you can't tear the property down and build less units. If you're required to build the same or build more, you're gonna have more traffic, more people. The other thing too is the state is making it either very little or no parking requirements. It's just gonna make for a more densely populated area. Everybody's got their own opinion on what that is, and I'm not here to express an opinion. I'm just here to tell you how it relates to real estate and how it relates to values. But that law is definitely a big one that has changed some people's fortune as far as what their property is worth.